it with music, beautiful music. Hello, I'm Fred Miller, and this is yet another lecture in song. And before we delve into the wonders of the jazz age, the 1920s, a little bit about me. I was born in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Loved classical music from a very early age. Had a wonderful classical piano teacher. And I did Bach, Beethoven, and Brahms, and Schubert, and Grieg, and all the rest. Loved grand opera. And then, right on my 13th birthday, the Beatles arrived, and so I was equally enthralled with the great rock songs of the 1960s, and that would go on through high school till the summer after I graduated. A friend whose parents took the New York Times out there in New Mexico showed me this poster in the New York Times of this rock festival taking place in upstate New York. And we looked at that lineup and we thought, we got to go. We were up for the adventure, and so we hitchhiked most of the way from New Mexico to the Woodstock Festival. We even showed up very prominently in the poster. We were 50 feet away from the stage the whole time. But that was it for rock music. That was the peak of the rock age, and I really never thought about being a rock musician. I wanted to be a musician. I knew that, and I went to college very briefly, about 3 minutes, and then left and traveled around the country in my VW Bug and finally ended up in Greenwich Village. And at some point, somebody gave me an album of Ella Fitzgerald singing Cole Porter, and there was the music that was going to be my life here. The world of Gershwin, Porter, Kern, Rogers, Berlin, Fred Astaire, Judy Garland, Ethel Merman, Frank Sinatra, Bing Crosby, the Great American Songbook, as we call it now. Initially, I came up with the idea of a lecture in song, each one be a profile of a great personality or some aspect of American popular song. And I thought, first I'll just do songwriters and performers, and I'll be lucky if I get 10, 12 programs. But it expanded over time into 7 different categories, and now to date there are 75 different lectures in song, each one described in detail at fredmillermusic.com. This program, I felt compelled to include just virtually every major sort of songwriter, not only Gershwin and Porter and Kern, the big names, but those who are not so well known but really contributed so decisively to the various eras of which they were a part. I call these guys the Jazz Age Kings. They thrived in that magical sort of decade right after World War I, where life completely changed. It was really the dawn of the modern world, and this music is what really sort of expresses it better than anything. Their careers would go on beyond that, to the 1930s and even into the 1940s as well. But the real distinctive thing, the thing focusing on here, is the music of the Jazz Age. We'll start with the personality. Again, the name is not a household name. It is Walter Donaldson. Born 1893 and lived till 1947. I think it's significant, that date, 1893. That's just the year after what we think of as Tin Pan Alley, the whole music publishing business, the whole thing with sheet music and songs, popular songs. That was born in 1892 with After the Ball. And Walter Donaldson just came along just at that very moment here. Literally, he was born in Brooklyn. His father was a shoe cutter, Dutch, Scottish, I guess, background. His mother was Irish, played the piano. Had 10 brothers and sisters, the old American type of family. Even had a twin brother. He loved songwriting right from the start. He was right there at the beginning. He was living in Brooklyn, in New York. Contributed to high school shows, and he was a clerk at a brokerage house, but I think he wanted to be in music. There's no question. He knew that's where he was bound. I think he got fired at one point because he was actually doing music when he should have been working on the stock market or something. Anyway, his first hits were during World War I, 1915, 1916. Here's the first sort of prominent song that we have here. These are the old-fashioned kind of, Daisy Daisy and Streets of New York. Here's contribution to it. She's the daughter of Rosie O'Grady, a regular old-fashioned girl. She isn't crazy for diamond rings, silkens and satins and fancy things. She's just a sweet little lady, and when you meet her you'll see. While I'm glad I caught her, the daughter of Rosie O'Grady. This is the real important song that really put him on the map, and I think is one of the most important songs of the time, because World War I was one of those watersheds of history, certainly of our modern history, of our modern age. There was the time before World War I, very sort of old-fashioned Victorian, Edwardian, and suddenly the reality of horrors of World War I in a way sort of made us, I don't know, grow up, or just reality was different. But things got modern here. This song, in very humorous fashion, sort of laments, is a little worried about, gee, things have gotten kind of modern. Well, how are we gonna manage this here? Reuben, Reuben, I've been thinking, said his wifey dear. Now that all is peaceful and calm, the boys will soon be back on the farm. Mr. Reuben started winking and slowly rubbed his chin. He pulled his chair up close to Mother and he asked her with a grin, how you gonna keep 'em down on the farm after they seen Perry? How you gonna keep 'em away from Broadway, jazzing around, painting the town? How you gonna keep